clear. You cannot explain to anybody how you're going to give them their value back, especially by sponsoring national team, especially when you rarely play at home, because we don't have the facilities to host most of the time. So you're out of the country and you're trying to tell somebody, put your jersey on, your brand on our jersey, and other people see it. How is that going to do it? So they chase you out of the office 9 times out of 10. The reason this took long is that was the hardest part to explain. And I explained to my president, I said, my hardest job, getting a sponsor for the league, is very easy. And I said, I'm not going to start with the easy. I'm going to start with the impossible. Because if I can achieve the impossible, then I know for sure that the easy will become a lot easier. So that's why I focused on doing the hardest part first, which was getting a sponsor for the national teams. What this means for the national teams, as you all know, it's the first time ever in Ugandan basketball for us to have a sponsor. Rugby has had, football has had forever, never basketball. Also because basketball is considered an elite sport. It's not for the masses. And in Uganda, if you're not speaking to the masses as a corporate, I am not going to put my brand there. But I was fortunate enough to have met the people of Bet Power, who coincidentally are more into sports development than return on investment. And when they asked me to come and talk to the MPs at the East Africa Games that were in Kigali, when I went and met the MPs, and it's everything that the minister spoke about in his speech, I said, if governments can understand, because other governments world over understand this, that if governments can understand that once corporates concentrate and put their money in sports development, there must be a way in which you can make it worth their while, in a tax rebate, in a tax reduction, something, because they are doing your work for you. They are making whatever it is that you would have spent on sports development as a nation, they are putting that money in. Make it worth their while. That's all I said. Then I hear the minister speaking what he spoke, and he said, we're faster track moving with the Ministry of Finance. So I'm glad. And this is what I asked the Bet Power people to come and do, and we speak about and grow together. I'm glad to hear that next financial year, an extra 100 billion is going to go to sports, but from tax rebates from betting companies. So what this means for basketball, to your question, it allows us, our biggest problem, as you heard from Albert in his speech, team manager, was never talent. That's true. That's one thing we have in abundance. Our issue is planning. And if you look at all the times we have planned well and gotten money up front and moved, it doesn't matter who we were meeting, we were forced to reckon. When we don't plan, it's clear, you can tell. And on top of not planning, there's what we call, there's a bunkenke. From management, from players, we don't know if our hotel is paid, we don't know if we're going to get our allowances, we don't know how we're going to go back home even. How do you expect someone to play under those conditions and then expect good results? You can't. But now, everybody is. We have some money, we can plan. It's not enough. Of course, it's not going to solve all our problems. But at least it allows us to have a planning base to the bare minimum. So it's huge.
Yes, of course, you talked about being very easy to bring partners on board to sponsor things like the league, but not very easy with the national team. And you mentioned something to do with the masses. The corporates love talking to the masses. If you have the masses, they will give you a listening ear. In basketball, the masses are on and off, especially those who show up for games. Of course, you have the masses who show up for games, then you have the masses who watch the games on TV now that you have the league on TV, especially the Friday games. What measures are being taken by FUBA or your office to make sure that actually you improve in that area with the masses, being consistent with the masses? Yesterday, we had a basketball game or 2 basketball games in Togo, and the arena was empty. It wasn't the same case last Friday. It probably wasn't the same case last Friday. So you have masses that are on and off, and for somebody who wants to invest, you get a feeling that maybe that is sometimes a tunnel.
Yes, it is. And I realize that basketball is a life. Basketball is it's a lifestyle sport. It's not like football where people are going to come no matter what. That's number one. Number two, unlike football or rugby, pitches are everywhere in the country. Basketball, you have to go out of your way to find a basketball court. There are not that many. So basketball is considered, I must go out of my way to go and watch a basketball game. So what we know and what we have seen is we have to find a way to make basketball attractive to non-basketball lovers. Because again, you have to go out of your way. But we have seen the possibility of it with things like FNL. It's possible if you do a little extra. Make it fun, entertainment, music, all that is possible. However, all that requires money. So, soon and very soon, we will announce a league sponsor.
How soon?
2 weeks. I had ramblings.
Soon and very soon.
Okay, actually, next week.
Oh. Exclusive.
Next week, FUBA are going to announce a league.
You first had it here.
Brian somehow I think had we, because he said it. When you said in 3 months, he said next week.
Brian is the type who gets these stories. He writes them, he puts them in draft. You call the press for a press conference tomorrow. Brian is publishing tonight.
Yeah.
With all the details.
I can't speak to who it is, but it will happen next week, just before the Easter break. And the plan we have with that sponsor is exactly what you're saying. How do we get people back into the arena, into the games?
Yes, I'm not giving away too much, but of late we've been seeing pull-up banners of Castle Lake and Stanbic Bank around basketball games. So we don't know, it could be one of those two or somebody.
But Stanbic has been there.
Yes, Stanbic is actually
official, but yet something big and
yes, you never know. But anyway, my question directed to the CEO. Of course, this is the first time the national team, I think since 1960s, when FUBA got affiliated to the National Council of Sports, that the sponsors come on board for the national teams. But for the league, the sponsors have always been there. But the main question is, getting these sponsors is one thing, but retaining them is another. For the league, you might have many avenues where you can create value for them, but for the national teams, given that we don't normally compete here because of the facility, like you stated. So how do you hope to create value for Bet Power?
We have discussed the different avenues in which we can do that, and one of the things we are going to do together is they call them campaigns. We call them sports development drills. So among the other things is we shall go countrywide with clinics, basketball clinics. We shall do a lot of coaching clinics. We shall do a lot of referee clinics. All of this will come from the Bet Power money. So the mileage in which we are going to give them and the value in which we're going to give them is actual development of the sport, in which we have to take lead. Because Bet Power as an organization is not solely invested in basketball. They are solely invested in sport. So they don't understand basketball as a sport, the same way they don't understand football, they don't understand boxing. They'll invest in the sport. Our job as the federation is to see when Bet Power came, and a year in, how better is the sport of basketball with the funds that they gave us. If I can give them that report card, we have trained 46 coaches, we have trained 77 referees, we have improved our coaching by X. We got a coach from Serbia, we got a coach from the States, etc., etc., etc. And this is what he did. That's the report card I give them. That's all they care about. And that's how we win. And more importantly, as Ugandan basketball, we win. That's how you use the money well and give them a report card and say, gentlemen, look at where we are today. And the report will be clear in our performance as well.
Yeah. Yes, maybe the other question before Ian comes in. You've got to address the big elephant in the room. And in Uganda here, not just in Uganda, but for the fans. For example, if I support Manchester United, they lose against Luton, I'll say, for betting companies, FUBA getting associated with a betting company and Silverbacks are losing a game easily. Like you say, Ghana Cranes losing to Comoros. If you read across social media, any normal fan will say, now this is impossible. Queens you know, Popo to the national team head coach's history. And if Uganda lose, the Silverbacks lose a game, anyhow, like, any fan, because if you've seen on Twitter, there's that common fan, I think he calls himself Black Mugisu. He said that FUBA should not have associated with the betting company. You know, Ugandans, the fans are tricky. They always have that opinion. So as the federation, how do you hope to bridge that gap and maybe clean or have a clean spot, given that now you're associating yourself with a betting company?
So, sports betting and the evils of sports betting are not new to sport in the world over.
Yes.
The only thing you can hope and pray for is that your management team has decent enough morals to care about the sport more than they said themselves. To the best of my knowledge, from the exco of FUBA to the management team of the national team committee, and we can name names here and you hear them, I am not concerned about this matter. Because if there was ever a sports betting challenge and throwing away games, it would start at the top.
True. Like elsewhere.
Like world over.
That would be me.
The challenges always start at the top. So I'm confident that the people we have placed at the top love the game way too much to be that petty.
Because if you soften the heads, it's very easy to manage.
The rest is and the players know that if we hear as management that this is the direction you have taken as a player, you can be sure. We will not even bother to find out about verifying whether it's true or not. If we just hear that you first
Step aside.
Then we research. They know it. It's clear in our heads. It's not debatable. Because for us, it was a very, very contentious conversation, to the point where we even asked ourselves religiously, whether you look at the Islamic faith, the Christian faith, is it against our religion to have a betting company as a sponsor? Like, that's how deep we went.
Analysis was at that level.
It was at that level. So by the time we were able to even have that conversation, you can imagine the sports throwing or the sports betting discussion is completely off the table. So I cannot guarantee, because humans are humans, but I would like to think that I am comfortable enough to believe that our leaders, the ones we have put at the top, from our president to the team management committee to the exco, are not that petty.
Yes, and
we need to go to the break, Brian. When we return, then of course we have a few minutes left, but we'll be able to squeeze it just in after this. Yes. A part of the Legends Marathon. The Legends Marathon will be happening on the...
Yes, I just had this to ask Marcus. We are all aware, though, that the popularity of the sport is not possibly where I want it to be. Now that we have the deal on table, are there any plans in being able to market the sport, not just in the central region, but as Uganda as well, so that there is, I'm trying to create like more visibility for the national team as well, in terms that it can probably lead, we can now find ways of trying to promote our merchandise and marketing of the team. What is the plan in that aspect of, now that we have got the sponsor, how are we going to now market the team throughout the country?
Like I said, part of the agreement with Bet Power is we needed to do clinics, basketball clinics. And these clinics are going to be run by the national team players. And this is going to be countrywide. And that achieves two goals. Number one is...
More like what High Hopes is doing, but this time round.
Yes, now round, yes, at FUBA level. It achieves two goals. Number one is it promotes the sport, but also it allows us to teach the rest of the country the sport the right way. Now, who better to do it than national team players? Before we do that, we also hope to be able to have done clinics in Central, and then use whatever we learn from Central to take it across the country. Now, our challenges, notwithstanding of facilities, like I said, football and rugby are a lot easier to execute because all they need is a pitch. Pitches are everywhere in Uganda. For basketball, slightly more complicated. For us to have a good basketball court to execute what we want to do, there are only few places you can achieve that. Most of them will probably be schools.
Yes, schools, definitely.
So the conversation is going to have to get into schools, into understanding that the schools, we cannot achieve this without the school participation. The problem with schools is they will be like,
but of course, there are the basketball schools that we know.
Yeah, there's the usual basketball schools that will not have a problem
And
with.
there is a mini basketball tournament, for primary mini basketball tournament soon coming up as well.
So yes, correct. That is happening, and it's FUBA led. Our next goal after we achieve, so national team was our first order of business, then the league. The next one is university and high school. So my next goals after I announce what I'm announcing next week will be university and high school. How do we get these also corporately supported? And then we get back, for those of you who are around during the days of Sprite, that's what we want to get back.
Brian, your last one.
Oh, why my last? But anyway,
because you're not in charge of time.
No, it's not a normal day to have the CEO here. But the CEO, maybe a little breakdown of the 2.6 billion. Is that all amount coming as cash? Because we've seen the sponsorship when at least the sponsor will announce that they are giving you 1 billion, but 20% is coming as cash. So we need some little clarification on that. And I remember you voted that the federation is going to put that money to good use. Maybe you can give us what specifically that amount is going to do to the national teams. Is it you're going to use it in tickets? Because you and I know that even that 2.6 billion is not enough as far as the budget of the national teams is concerned. And then this one might sound a little bit tricky, but I think it's necessary. I've seen you in pictures with the big people in the country. You know what I'm saying. Yes, you are a well-connected man. But we've seen, for example, FUFA. Everyone is complaining that they are getting a lot. Is it 10 billion from the government for the national teams? And we all know what FUFA President Magogo used the back door to go and approach the country's president. Yes, but how are you planning to use your connections to the government to see that maybe the other things the national team is pulling out of the competitions? Yes, like I said, bed power sponsorship is there, but it might not be enough to facilitate the teams. So how are you trying to use your connections to see that maybe FUBA gets close to where FUFA is in terms of their sponsorship with the government?
Okay, two things, Nambo. But your first question, the money, the 2.6 is all in cash, but doesn't come at once, of course.
Yes.
It's over 3 years.
Yes.
So it is $200,000, $100,000 per team for Gazelles and Silverbacks each per year. So that's $600,000. If you do that into mathematics of Uganda shillings, that's 2.6.
But also that sponsorship needs to be commended. I mean, sponsorship comes in and money is divided equally.
Yes.
Usually you have the men taking the lion's share and the ladies taking.
So it's divided equally, and because the tournaments vary for the men and women. Women's Afrobasket, I think, is every 2 years.
Yes.
Men's is every 4. So of course we might end up using some of men's to do women's.
Yes.
But the moral of the story is we don't want to ever be stranded. Either team. That's what the money is supposed to help us fix. Where we we end up spending a lot of money because of last-minute things. For example, we know that we are traveling in Feb next year. We buy the tickets today. Do you know how much the tickets are today if you buy them?
Very cheap.
That cheap. When you buy them 2 weeks to the event, you're paying 8 times the amount. So that money is supposed to help us sort out planning. Sorting out planning means are not limited to tickets, training camps, getting the players here early, and now we sorted out and that's one of the first things that we had to fix, which was a hospitality partner. Because we have a lot of foreigners that come, then we end up spending millions on accommodation. Now we have fare. They come, they stay. Fare is happy. That one we have fixed. So they come, that cost is out the door. You've bought the tickets early. It's a lot cheaper. You've paid for everybody's planning early. So what you would have ended up spending $300,000-$400,000 on, you spend $80,000 because you have the opportunity to spend early. So that answers your first question. The second question was,
how are you going to use your connections?
That was your third. There was another one in between.
That was the second.
It was the second.
Okay.
He just went further with it. So the truth of the matter is we will never get to soccer. We agree, we have understood it, we move on. We will never be football.
There are people living in denial.
Yeah.
It's a boxing.
We and not because, by the way, of the powers that be in parliament. Soccer will always be big and they will always get the lion's share. We move on. However, if you listen to what the Minister of State said at the presser, at the launch, he said, there are sports where we are going to stop putting money until you bring results.
Yes.
He said it.
But he later told us his blood is 99.9%. So.
Yes, but even he knows there's only so much I can push with regards to soccer if you don't bring results.
Yes. Hope that can be put in practice.
Now, whether or not we will ever live to see the day where we start prioritizing performing sports over non-performing sports, I don't know. But I started my speech on Wednesday by saying, when I was appointed, the first person I met was Ogwang. And I asked him give us our kitty, we go. And I told him, he chased me with a stick. And that was my idea of using my connections. But the truth of the matter is, there's only so much those connections can get you, because at the end of the day, the kitty is the same. We have the same pool of funds. It's not like there's a new one going to be created. And when I realized that, and I said, okay, at the end of the day, sporting in its entirety is not in the top 20 priority list of our president. Understand it, believe it, move on. Therefore, we need other partners to help us succeed.
Yes, Marcus, we've run out of time. It is time for the list, but I have one question for you, and the answer is yes or no. One question, and I'm asking this question, Marcus, the CEO of FUBA. Are you happy that the dictator stayed for this one?
Thank you very much.
News.